Queen Hatshepsut is a controversial queen who ruled Egypt during the 18th dynasty New Kingdom. She is famous for her majestic nature and characteristics, which allowed her to rule Egypt alone for 20 years until she died. She is the owner of this mortuary temple in the West Bank of Luxor. The temple is composed of 3 terraces, the most important of which is the second one that is divided into 4 chapels. There are magnificent drawings and representations on the walls of these chapels. Make sure that when you come to visit Hatshepsut Temple in the West Bank of Luxor, you take a look at all these chapels, as each one is different from the other. Hatshepsut recorded on the walls of her temple in the West Bank of Luxor the most important events that happened in her lifetime, one of which was the mission of Punt. In a detailed text, she recited how God Amun inspired her to send a mission to Somalia to explore it and to bring the myrrh trees. It was called then the Lands of Punt. The adventure started with the sailing of 5 great Egyptian ships from one of the Red Sea ports and headed south, loaded with all the classy goods of Egypt. The texts written above and beside the scenes describe them step by step. After the safe arrival of the mission, the dark-skinned Egyptian leader Nahsi stood with his 8-armed soldier in front of Parihu, the chief of Punt, and presented the gifts which were placed over a table and included collars made of beads and bracelets and daggers. The wife of the chief stands behind him and draws attention with her huge body. In a comic hint, the Egyptian artist drew her donkey as well and wrote a sarcastic line above it saying, "His donkey that carries his wife." These blocks were stolen and were retrieved but placed inside the Egyptian museum. So what we see here are the replicas of the original ones. The group of scenes that follows them are considered the only of their kind that describe the land of Punt, in addition to the high artistic level in showing the scenes so live and vivid. They show the natives' houses that take the shape of huts, built over tree trunks and reached by ladders. We also see cattle graze around them. The texts describe their astonishment of the arrival of the Egyptian sailors, not knowing how they did it, and their wondering if they came from the sky or flew over the water, and if the king of Egypt can help them with their way of life. The Egyptians set their tent to welcome the elders of the tribe and offer them bread, beer, wine, meat, and fruit. Later on, the sailors transport the myrrh trees in baskets full of mud, which were one of the main purposes of the mission. After loading their ships with goods, they sail back to Egypt. The queen showers god Ammon with thanks for the success of her mission and presents all the foreign goods to him. Amongst 31 types of trees brought from there were 3 types of myrrh. These rare trees were planted in a garden in front of the temple and were used in religious rituals. Many scenes of the queen were defaced as well as her name, probably by King Akhenaton. The Egyptian artist was keen on drawing the fish of the Red Sea with its different types to show the environment and the natural scenes around him. The incense was piled up and measured, as well as gold rings, and everything was recorded accurately and calculated by goddess Seshat. Finally, the queen let out a sigh of relief as she says, "I brought Ammon the land of Punt in his garden, as he ordered me here in Thebes, and it's so wide that he can take a promenade in it." All these scenes that are filled with the scent of truth and pleasure leave a special mark that can hardly be felt by any other monument of its kind. The chapel of goddess Hathor is one of the 4 chapels of the second terrace that lies in the middle of Queen Hatshepsut temple. It used to be reached through separate steps and door in the middle court. It's dedicated to goddess Hathor, the cow goddess, who was worshipped as a symbol of motherhood. She's represented sometimes as a cow and other times as a woman with cow's ears and 2 horns, with a sun disk in between. The capital of the column that holds her figure is called a Hathoric column. The first part of the chapel was built. The rest was totally cut out in the rocks. It's composed of 2 halls with 4 columns in its facade and 12 columns in 2 rows. The 6 outer columns have 16 sides each, and the 4 inner ones are squared and end with Hathor's head. The most important scene here is the one that shows Hathor, the cow goddess, suckling Queen Hatshepsut. The other one shows the parade of the queen sailing in the Nile. It's composed of a group of boats with shrines and soldiers rowing. Just like the rest of the temple, several profiles and names of the queen were erased by King Thutmose III, who succeeded her. The chapel of goddess Hathor is distinguished with the beauty of its colors and the delicacy of its scenes that basically represent Hathor as a cow with Hatshepsut and Thutmose III in traditional scenes. And that's what makes it a basic part of the tour in that unique temple of Queen Hatshepsut. The birth chapel of Queen Hatshepsut is situated in the middle terrace in her unique temple. On its walls, the queen recorded the mythology that proves her right to the throne of Egypt after usurping it from Thutmose III. She claimed that god Ammon married her mother, Queen Iahmes, who gave birth to her, being the daughter of the god. She took the role of god Horus and was entitled the Son of the Sun, and wore the men's wear. The scenes show god Ammon led by god Thoth the ibis to the dorm of the queen, where they both sit on a bed held in the sky by two goddesses who sit on a bed with lions' heads. Later, god Khnum takes orders from god Ammon to form Hatshepsut and her double on the potter's wheel, while Heket, the wife of god Khnum, gives the breeze of life to the nose of the newborn baby while it's still in her mom's womb. Later, the mother queen is led by Khnum and Heket, who has got a frog's head, to the birth chamber. There, she sits on the birth chair and delivers her baby with the help of a midwife. The rest of the scenes show baby Hatshepsut introduced by Hathor to god Ammon. 12 goddesses nurse the queen and her double, while goddess Seshat records the birth date of the queen. The child queen sits in front of 3 rows of gods and goddesses with human and animal heads. The birth story ends with Hatshepsut being introduced to the gods and coronated. According to family dispute, many scenes were mutilated, and the name of the queen was erased and replaced by King Thutmose III. Nevertheless, the walls of the birth chapel keep a rare record of the political events and struggle that led in the end to the coronation of a great lady over the throne of Egypt. The chapel of god Anubis lies in the extreme right of the second terrace of Queen Hatshepsut's temple. Its facade is decorated with the Egyptian cornice, and its ceiling is held by 16 columns, each with 16 sides divided into 3 rows. God Anubis is a jackal-headed god who guards the cemetery and the West World, so Queen Hatshepsut presents to him a huge table of offerings and a similar one to god Ammon, who occupies the other half of the wall. Either the figure of the queen or her name, or both of them, were erased and replaced by that of King Thutmose III, who succeeded her. The vulture was represented with astonishing accurate details. In the middle of the chapel is a sanctuary decorated with Hatshepsut's scenes in her relationships with gods and goddesses. The ceiling is decorated with the bright and blue-yellow colors. There are two small niches on both sides of the chapel. Each held a statue of a god. Above one of them, King Thutmose III presents wine to god Sokher, one of the gods of the dead. The amazing reliefs and well-preserved colors characterize the chapel of Anubis and show the important role which he played in the world of the dead, in which the soul hopes to live in peace and protection, until the moment of rebirth comes and immortality is achieved. By dedicating a whole chapel in her temple to god Anubis, Queen Hatshepsut secured his satisfaction and thus his eternal blessings. The third terrace in the temple of Queen Hatshepsut was subjected to enormous destruction, being the first level below the mountain. Its facade had two rows of columns. The first one was distinguished with the gigantic Osiris statues of the queen, most of which were removed by King Thutmose III. The second row had the 16-sided columns, almost totally destroyed. The great impressive entrance was made of pink granite stone, decorated with the names of King Thutmose III, which were replaced according to his orders with the queen's cartouches. The sanctuary lies in the middle of the hall and coincides with the axis of the temple. It's a rectangular hall with a vaulted ceiling cut into the rocks of the mountain. During the Greek period, the Ptolemies added 8 columns in front of it, divided into 2 parts, and added a chamber to the sanctuary, and decorated it with the figures of 2 engineers who were deified during the Greek period. They are Amun-Hotep ibn Habu and Imhotep, who built the step pyramid. All the niches used to contain the golden statue of the queen. But the most amazing ones are those which remain on the facade and represent the queen as a mummy, wrapped in her linen sheets, and imitates god Osiris, just like any king, wearing the false beard and pictured like a man. But a closer look at her face would reveal to us a certain hidden smile, mocking her enemies and showing an unmatched power of a lady who ruled Egypt alone successfully for 20 years. With that charming smile, she says, "After all, I won."